Welcome to my Hemra Story channel. I am a real fake rich girl. In my previous life, after my identity was revealed, my wealthy parents did not hesitate to abandon me and happily welcomed back their biological daughter. They said that a fake is a fake, and that giving me a decade of a wealthy life was already considered a blessing, so I should stop dreaming and obediently return to the slums. After being reborn, I gave them a cold smile, pulled up my suitcase and turned to leave. 3 years later, my wealthy parents invested in a failed business and used all their money to buy a pair of expensive jewelry, groveling to please the bigwigs in the industry. At the banquet, I smiled slightly and whispered, "Sorry, I'm not interested in this fake jewelry," as I faced their astonished gaze. Our story begins. Everyone was shocked. Serena Lane, the daughter of the Lane family, the top wealthy family in the city, was exposed to be a fake daughter who was switched at birth. Her biological parents are actually a poor family in a small third-tier city, who make a living selling breakfast. In the spacious living room, the TV is broadcasting the latest news. I stand quietly with a suitcase next to me. It feels like it's been a long time. Nina Brooks is going to be home soon, so you should leave now. Don't let her see you or she'll be sad. Fake is a fake. All those years of spending so much money on you and it turned out like this. What a disappointment. My poor Nina has suffered so much over the years because of you, this fake mother. Her cold words were exactly the same as before, and I looked expressionlessly at the woman I had called my mother for 17 years. Her eyes were full of disgust, as if she were looking at rubbish, and she was completely different from the gentle mother I remembered. It was only because I was not her biological daughter. The last time after my identity was revealed, Lydia Hale was just as ruthless as she is now, telling the servants to pack my luggage and throwing me out directly. At that time I suddenly learned the truth, and unable to accept it, unable to understand my parents' indifference, I screamed and refused to leave. Seeing me like this, Lydia personally took me to the train station and left me there alone, but I stubbornly followed her back home. Later she tried to leave me outside a few more times, but I always found my way home. They said to me, "We are not your parents, and this is not your home. Haven't we raised you for 17 years? Stop pestering us and go back to where you belong." Those cold and firm words made my heart feel like ice. This time, in the face of the same harsh words and cold stares, I did not crumble as I had in my previous life. After being reborn, I was no longer the girl who longed for affection, nor did I have any expectations of them. I took the suitcase and gave a sarcastic smile at the corner of my mouth. After living with the Lane family for more than 10 years, this was the only suitcase left. Don't worry, from today onwards, I will sever all ties with you. After saying that, I gave them a cold look and turned to leave. Lydia was surprised by my attitude, and then a sneer flashed in her eyes, and she snorted in contempt. She sounded very convincing, but I hope she doesn't cling to us like her ordinary parents. Lydia has always believed that only good genes can produce good children, while inferior genes can only produce mediocre people. As far as I can remember, my mother has always been very demanding of me, constantly reminding me to become an elite. But I was born rebellious, longing for freedom and wanting to do what I like, but she would not allow it. Ethan Lane and her were united for commercial interests, and it took 2 generations of the Lane family and the Hale family to establish their current status as a powerful family. As her child, I was expected to continue and carry forward this glory. Therefore, ever since I was young, whenever I did something that did not meet her expectations, she would be disappointed and even question whether I was her child. When my background was revealed, Lydia's suspicions were confirmed, and she became even more convinced of the importance of genes. She felt that I didn't work hard because I wasn't her biological daughter. Now that she has found her biological daughter, she believes that she can raise her to be an outstanding elite. People like me are only worthy of an ordinary life. I left Lane family without any hesitation, dragging my suitcase behind me. Coincidentally, Lydia's biological daughter Nina arrived at the same time. She got out of the car and looked around timidly, surveying the Lane family villa with a mixture of bewilderment and a hint of longing in her eyes. Is this really going to be her future home? I watched her from a distance, and couldn't help but tighten my grip on the suitcase handle. Nina, you were the real culprit who killed me in my previous life. Now that you've returned to the Brooks family, why don't you just stay there for the rest of your life? Why do you have to appear in front of me? Why do you have to influence my life? Unlike the timid Nina, I remember that the Nina from the previous life was so crazy and twisted. Why can't I ever compare to you? I've tried so hard, but why can't I compare to you in other people's eyes? My mother once said that I was her real daughter, but as soon as you appeared, you easily took the praise that should have been mine. In the previous life, after being abandoned by the Lane family, I left the city and returned to my real home. Although I didn't like listening to Lydia's advice and didn't like studying when I was young, my grades were always good. After the blow of my background, I turned my sadness into motivation and returned to this city for the college entrance exam a year later. But Nina failed the exam. After she returned to Lane family, Lydia paid extra attention to her, full of expectations, hoping that she could become a high-level person and prove her excellent genes to everyone. During the college entrance exam, Nina performed poorly due to the pressure, and was unable to get into college as she wished. Instead, I successfully entered the finance department. Nina therefore resented me, feeling that I had taken away her place. Influenced by Lydia, she could not accept that I, a lower-class person, was better than her. One time after drinking, Nina drove home and saw me crossing the street. She was ruthless and stepped on the accelerator, causing me to be killed on the spot. The intense pain before death is still unforgettable to me. After the incident, the Lane family paid off the right people to cover it up, fabricated evidence and witnesses, and found a scapegoat for Nina. The real murderer, their daughter, was eventually sent abroad to live a peaceful life. I can still remember that after being hit, my soul lingered in the world for a few days, and I witnessed Ethan and Lydia pretending to grieve as they came to my funeral. They pretended to be sad, but in fact they coldly stared at my portrait in the funeral home. It was chilling to be treated like this even though I was already dead. What a pitiful person she is. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Why? Was I supposed to suffer like this? After experiencing so many absurd things in my past life, I just wanted to live a good life, but they wouldn't even give me that chance. In that case, I have come back to this life again, and I will not let Nina and the Lane family get away with the harm they have caused me. Since Nina has returned to the Lane family, my real parents must be waiting for me. I took the bus to the train station, holding the bus ticket Lydia gave me before I left. I almost forgot, apart from Nina and the Lane family, there is also a score to settle. The Brooks family, my real parents, and those relatives. You must be Serena. I'm your father, here to take you home. A dark-skinned middle-aged man, my biological father Adam Brooks, looked at me with slight trepidation. If the Lane family and Nina made me hate life, the Brooks family was the reason I lost hope in life and almost gave up. After I was kicked out of the Lane family, I returned to the Brooks family, who took good care of me and gradually helped me get over it. Just as I was picking myself up and trying to live my life again, I overheard their conversation. Is that thing you mentioned reliable? It's been a few days and the kid doesn't look like she has 500000. Mrs. Lane said it, so it must be true. I think the kid has a cold personality, and it might take some time for her to treat us like family. Then she'll naturally hand over the 500000. Ugh, the kid's personality is so cold, I'm a little worried. I see. Lydia lied to avoid being bothered by the Brooks family in the future, claiming that she had given me 500,000 yuan in child support before leaving. And the Brooks family's kindness to me was all for the money. Haha. Serena, this is your room. We've redecorated it a bit. I don't know if you like it or not. Let us know if there's anything missing. Your school records have been transferred here to No. 2 Middle School, which is close to our breakfast shop, so that we can take care of you more easily. If there's anything you don't like, just let us know. I followed the Brooks family home, and listening to their previous words, I felt nothing. I said indifferently that I was not dissatisfied. Nina's mother paused for a moment and then asked, so, is there anything you want? No. I didn't want to keep appeasing them, so I made up an excuse that I was tired and locked myself in my room. Outside the door, the Brooks family looked a little displeased. Nina's mother complained, why is this child so inconsiderate? Is this how the wealthy are brought up? Nina's father may not be used to being home, but he should feel better in a few days. Nina's mother shrugged, hoping that would be the case. After the surrounding became quiet, I took a closer look at this room that I was once so familiar with. Since God has given me a second chance, I definitely don't want to make the same mistakes again. I will make those who have wronged me pay for their actions. Lane family, Nina Brooks family, no one will escape. I will take my time to settle the scores from both lives. The first step to revenge is to make money and escape from the Brooks family. After leaving Lane family, I was penniless. Making money is now my top priority. Jicheng is a city with the highest crime rate and the worst economic situation. At night, it is full of filth and sin. I remember seeing a major criminal case in the news in my previous life, and it happened in the alley near my home. While the Brooks family were sleeping, I snuck out. Sure enough, as soon as I approached the alley, I could smell a strong smell of blood. I immediately called 110 and claimed to have encountered a suspect wanted online. After hanging up the phone, I didn't leave immediately, but hid in a hidden corner and quietly observed my surroundings. I could hear the sound of a fight in the alley, followed by the whimpering of someone in pain, which gradually grew faint. My heart sank, and I prayed that the police would arrive quickly. At that moment, the sound of a police siren could be heard in the distance, getting closer and closer, breaking the silence of the night. Uniformed police officers arrived one after the other, and soon after, they escorted someone into the police car. Then I saw a bloody man being helped out, his suit badly damaged and disheveled. Who would have thought that this man was Noah Reed, the previous incarnation's most prominent and wealthy citizen of Jicheng? According to what I know, the current richest man in Jicheng is facing a serious crisis, and he could go bankrupt at any time. He is even being hunted by his enemies, which is truly miserable. However, if Noah can overcome this crisis, his future will be limitless. I must seize this opportunity. I quietly followed them, and when Noah came out after making a statement at the police station, I quickly stepped forward to block his way. Noah looked at me warily and asked, "Who are you?" I smiled and replied, "I'm here to help you." Noah quickly understood, but his eyes were still a bit unfriendly. "Did you call the police?" I nodded and said, "This is the duty of every law-abiding citizen." Noah smiled gently, but frowned because of the wound on his face. "Little girl, what do you want?" "I hope Mr. Reed can give me a chance and trust me." Noah asked doubtfully, "What chance?" "I know Mr. Reed is in a difficult situation right now, and I have a way to help you." Noah's eyes revealed surprise after hearing this, and he looked at me with disbelief. "You? Well, why should I believe you, a young girl?" Noah's expression was disdainful. "I was able to save you today, and I also have a way to save your company. Mr. Reed might as well give it a try. Your situation can't get any worse than it is now, right?" Noah frowned and was silent for a while. I walked up to him and handed him a note. It said, "If Mr. Reed is willing to give me this opportunity, please meet me at this place tomorrow, and I will ensure that Mr. Reed will safely get through this crisis." After saying that, I turned around and left, not caring about Noah's reaction. Although I gave him time to think about it, I was sure he would come. After all, Noah is indeed in a difficult situation and is at a loss. As I expected, Noah came to see me. He asked me if I really could help him. A day later, he looked even more exhausted, and after what happened last night, the situation was even worse. Once an outstanding student in the Department of Finance, his current predicament meant nothing to me. I simply told Noah what I thought, and he was doubtful. After thinking for a long time, he finally said with a self-deprecating smile that he had actually come to the point where he had to listen to the advice of a little girl like me. I didn't pay attention to his inner journey, because I knew that he would do what I said. After I parted with Noah, I suddenly remembered that today seemed to be the day I reported to Urjong. After leaving Lane family, Lydia immediately switched my and Nina's student status back. Urjong's educational resources and college acceptance rate are relatively low in Jicheng, and some students drop out of school halfway through. The last time I couldn't keep up with the progress because of the sudden school change, and it took a lot of effort to catch up. I must not go back to square one. Although my plan is to get back at the Lane family, getting into a good university is still my goal. Is she the child who was switched at birth? She really is well-bred and looks great. But what about her grades? I hope she doesn't drag down the rest of the class. Nina is always in the top few. After I sat down in the classroom, I heard whispers all around me, but I didn't care and just followed my own study plan quietly. I thought I could start school life well, but I didn't expect Noah to contact me suddenly and say he had a problem and needed my help. I hesitated a little, but after thinking about it a few times, I decided to skip class and help him. I didn't go to class for 3 consecutive days, and the homeroom teacher quickly contacted the Brooks family. They were shocked by my absence but didn't know where I had gone. Could it be that the child felt life here was too difficult and ran away? Nina's mother asked anxiously. Nina's father immediately said angrily after hearing this, "How dare she? We've already suffered so much from losing Nina, and if she runs away too, what will we do in the future? We are her biological parents. She must give us an explanation. No, I have to go and ask the people from Lane family what's going on. How come we've lost both children? This is outrageous." Lydia felt very unreasonable after receiving Nina's father's phone call. "What's the point of contacting me when your daughter has gone missing? I told you as soon as she leaves Lane family, she has nothing to do with me anymore. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking, and don't expect anything from me. The money spent on her over the years has already exceeded 1 million. And what about you? How have you been taking care of my Nina? I'm already being lenient by not asking for compensation. If you call again, I'll report you to the police for threatening me." Lydia hung up angrily. "Mom, was that my dad on the phone?" Nina asked in a small voice. "That's not your father," Lydia said somewhat resentfully. "Nina, you must remember that those people are no longer related to you. If you want to become a good person in the future, don't get entangled with those people, understand?" Nina froze for a moment and nodded. "So, Mr. Brooks is looking for you. What's the matter?" Lydia sneered. "It's because his daughter skipped school and no one knows where she went." Nina reacted slightly before understanding that she was talking about Serena. "It's really disappointing. She went to that place for just a few days and already she's changed. She might get into trouble in the future." Nina thought for a moment and responded that she didn't think so. How could that be? Parents have a huge influence on their children. What good can come from those kids hanging out with those people? "Nina, don't follow in her footsteps and don't hang out with the Brooks family anymore." Nina said softly that she understood. "As for what Lydia said about me and why the Brooks family came to see me, I don't know anything. Noah's company is in a bit of a mess. I work at Noah's company as a consultant, assisting him with all matters." Soon, Noah's employees understood that their boss had hired a very capable and mysterious savior to help turn the company around. After things had stabilized at Noah's, I finally returned home exhausted. "Where have you been?" Nina's father's face was very dark when he saw me come home. "Do you know how worried your mother and I have been about you? I know you may not be used to this kind of life, but can you be sensible? Your mother and I work hard every day to earn money to send you to school, and it's hard enough without you skipping classes and running off. If it were Nina, she would never make us worry." I didn't want to listen to their nagging, so I went straight to my room and shut the door behind me. I wanted to rest, but then I suddenly realized that someone had been in my room and rummaged through my suitcase. I knew right away who it was, so I opened the door and asked loudly, "Did you move my things?" Nina's father saw me come out and wanted to continue lecturing me, but after hearing what I said, a guilty look flashed across his face. He said, "We were just worried about you and wanted to see if there was anything in your suitcase that we could use to contact you." Nina's mother also chimed in, "Yes, you suddenly disappeared, which made us all very worried, and your father was also very worried about you." I sneered and asked, "Do you think I would believe that?" Nina's father said angrily, "Do you think I would steal your things? What valuable things do you have that I would steal? How can you think this way about your parents? Did they teach you this at Lane family?" I didn't want to argue with him, so I turned around and went back to my room. Nina's father was even more angry when he saw my attitude. He said to Nina's mother, "Don't worry, Serena will know. Do you think she wants our money? What does a child her age know? Don't scare yourself. I'll get the money back in a few days." Nina's father's eyes flashed with a shrewd light. "This money is enough to build a nice house back home." I couldn't help but smile as I listened to the commotion in the living room from my room. Not long after I last returned to the Brooks family, they said they wanted to build a house in the old country and wanted me to pay for it. I said I didn't have the money, and they called me an ungrateful white-eyed wolf, attracting a crowd of neighbors. Because of the Brooks family's word, everyone thought I was unfilial and heartless. In the end, they felt that I had become a burden and left me here alone, returning to the old country. This time I thought they would hide it for a while, but I didn't expect them to hold back so soon. That's good, because Noah's situation has stabilized. Next, I'll deal with this greedy couple. A few days later, Nina's father suddenly asked me for money. Serena, your grandfather is old and has difficulty walking. Your mother and I want to build a new house in our hometown, but we don't have enough money. I know Mrs. Lane gives you child support, so can you lend us some money first? I answered expressionlessly, I don't have any money. Nina's father obviously didn't believe me. Don't worry, when we finish building the house, you'll have a share of it. Nina's mother also said that our family is already having a hard time, and our relatives and friends have lent us money over the years and don't want to lend us any more. Serena, just help your parents, okay? I still refused. They continued to accuse me of being ignorant just like last time, and we ended up having a big fight. I called Noah and asked him to do me a favor. In the evening, I returned home carrying a new suitcase. Nina's father felt strange and followed me, until I opened the suitcase, which was full of cash. Nina's father's eyes widened in shock, and then he quickly returned to the bedroom. I smiled at the sight of his departing back. The suitcase was indeed full of money. It seems that the little one must have taken out all the money. Nina's father sneered, his face twisted in disgust. She actually lied to us and said she had no money. Nina's mother asked, so what do we do now? Nina's father said, what do we do? I'm her father. There's nothing wrong with me spending my daughter's money. The next day when I got home from school, the money in the suitcase was gone. I called the police. When the police came, the Brooks family looked very confused. When they found out it was me who called the police, they immediately started shouting and accusing me. I looked innocent. The money in the suitcase had been taken, so of course I had to report it to the police. Nina's father was furious and asked me what he meant by taken. I used it. Does that not count as being taken? You. Nina's father was so angry that he could not speak, and turned to the police officer, smiling, and explained, Comrade policeman, our child is still young, and she said we stole it when we used a little of her money. Do you think it is unreasonable for parents to use their child's money? How can this be considered stealing? The policeman frowned and said, but the owner of the lost property is not your daughter. Nina's father was completely confused and asked, what? I slowly continued, yes, Dad, the money isn't mine, it belongs to a friend of mine. He asked me to keep it for him and it was temporarily with me. But then it was stolen, and my friend told me to call the police immediately. What? Nina's father's face went completely pale. This must be her money, right? Dad, since you said you took the money, that's great. You can just give it back to me now and I'll talk to my friend and he shouldn't pursue it. As soon as the words left her mouth, Nina's father's face turned even paler, and his lips began to tremble. He had already spent all the money, and there was no way he could get it back. The policeman understood the situation at a glance. It's best to go to the station and explain everything in detail. The Brooks family were quickly taken away by the police. I told Noah to find someone to prosecute them, and not accept a settlement. I helped Noah stabilize the company, which was not a big problem for him. With that kind of amount, it was enough to keep the Brooks family in jail for a long time. After the Brooks family were detained, I moved out of their house and moved into a house that Noah helped me find. Now that the company is stable, what are your next plans? Noah asked. Study hard. Noah didn't expect me to say that. I was right. With the Brooks family case settled and Noah's company in Serena's capable hands, it was indeed time to study hard and go back to college. I went back to school, settled down and studied hard. With the experience from my previous life, improving my grades wasn't difficult for me this time. As the college entrance exam approached, my grades improved rapidly, but things weren't going so well for Nina. After several consecutive mock exams, Nina's grades got worse and worse, and Lydia had changed 3 tutors, but the results were still not obvious. What's wrong with you? Your grades weren't bad before, why have you been doing so poorly lately? Lydia asked Nina. Nina looked away, unable to find the right words to say. Lydia sighed and said, Nina, I have high expectations of you. I hope you can do better. You are my biological daughter. I was a good student when I was young. You can't do worse. Nina responded with a small cry. I'm sorry, Mum. I'll try harder. Lydia sighed and said, I'll find you another good tutor. You must get into university, understand? Nina nodded. Lydia got up and left, muttering under her breath as she walked away, wondering why this child couldn't even keep up with Serena. Serena was a naughty child, but her grades were stable. Nina heard her behind her, lowered her head, clenched her hands, and tears fell on the test paper on her lap. Was she really not as good as Serena? Lane Family Daily episodes. I'm not sure. After the last mock exam, the school gave us 2 days off. It so happened that Noah wanted to take me to the city. He had a project with the city that had not been finalized, and he thought that if I accompanied him, it would give him more confidence. Since I had helped him save the company, he had not only given me a generous salary, but also some company shares. Now I was considered a shareholder. I understood that Noah was very ambitious in business, and would definitely not be satisfied with staying in Jeju. He would try to expand his business in the city. Fine. Now that the company is on the right track, there's no harm in taking the next step, so I agreed. When I left the city, I didn't think I'd be coming back so soon. When Noah introduced me to his partners, they couldn't believe their eyes. Some even speculated that there might be something special between Noah and me. However, once the negotiations started, everyone was impressed by me. Those misunderstandings have now turned into admiration and anticipation. Mr. Reed has really chosen the right person. With such vision and ability at such a young age, the future is boundless. I smiled modestly and raised my glass, wishing us a pleasant cooperation. From then on, the name Serena spread throughout the city's business circles. The day before returning to Jicheng, Noah said he wanted to treat me to a big meal to thank me for my help this time. Unexpectedly, they ran into two people. Nina was upset about her mock exam results, and Lydia took her out for a walk to cheer her up, only to run into someone neither of them wanted to see. Lydia froze when she saw Noah and I come out of the same private room, and she surveyed Noah's attire, her eyes betraying obvious disdain. I can't believe you've chosen this lifestyle after all this time. Serena, don't ever say you were raised by my Lane family again. I can't bear to hear it. I raised an eyebrow, and Noah frowned beside me and said, Madam, have you misunderstood something? No need to explain, this kind of thing is common in high society, I just didn't expect it. Serena, I'm really disappointed that you've turned out like this. I couldn't help but laugh. Didn't you say that once I left the Lane family, I had nothing to do with them? If that's the case, why pretend to be disappointed here? It really makes me uncomfortable. Lydia snorted, saying, Anyway, this is all you'll ever be in life. Even if you climb your way back up to high society, you'll still be looked down upon. It's not like us, Nina, who has endless possibilities and a presence you can never hope to match. After saying this, she gave me a disgusted look and quickly left with Nina, as if staying for even a second would expose her to something bad. Noah was confused by this and asked me, Who is she? I answered expressionlessly, She's just a lunatic. It's still too early for me to take revenge on the Lane family. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. I have all the patience in the world. After leaving the restaurant, Lydia felt exceptionally relieved. She said to Nina, Ever since I was little, I never thought Serena was my daughter. She never tried to better herself. Look at her now, she's become such a disappointment. Nina, you must remember that a person's origins will affect her future. Although you went through a lot when you were young, now that your parents are trying to make up for it, you must not let us down. Nina nodded vigorously. She was secretly happy to see Serena in the box today, and all the previous pent-up anger and grievances dissipated. Even if my mother thinks I'm inferior to her, so what? Isn't she relying on her body to get ahead now? We're not in the same league anymore, so what right does she have to compare with me? This trip to the city has made me a bit famous in the business community. After returning to Jicheng, many people came to me specifically to collaborate. As the college entrance exam approached, I rejected all distractions, even Noah, and focused on studying. After thorough preparation, The college entrance exam soon arrived. The exam went well, and I confidently completed the exam and walked out of the exam room. Looking at the fiery red sunset in the distance, I celebrated in advance. Although the results have not yet been announced, I know in my heart, the Department of Finance was already my top choice. A month later, the college entrance exam results were announced, and I became the top scorer in Jicheng. After hearing the news, many people called to congratulate me, including Noah. During the time I was preparing for the exam, Noah's company had grown rapidly, and his business had expanded to the city. He told me that he planned to relocate the headquarters to the city, and only leave a subsidiary in Jicheng. It just so happened that you can join my company directly after graduating from university, and I have reserved a position for you. I smiled, thinking that my plan to get back at the Lane family could finally begin. Could you find out Nina's college entrance exam results for me? I asked. Nina didn't pass. Due to Lydia's constant pressure before the college entrance exam, Nina's mentality completely collapsed when she got to the exam hall. Not only did she not perform as well as Lydia had expected, but her final score was even worse than her mock exam. Lydia lost control of her emotions when she learned about Nina's college entrance exam results. She said, "I have invested so much in you and found so many tutors, and what is the result? How do you respond to my efforts?" Nina kept crying in front of her. What's the point of crying? Your grades are so bad that you can hardly get into a university, which is a great disappointment to the Lane family. Lydia said angrily, "Look at Serena. She's doing so well. She managed to get the top score in the province despite attending a school with a higher crime rate than a graduation rate. How can she let a poor girl surpass her daughter?" Lydia felt a little dizzy thinking about it. Nina pleaded, "Mom, help me, I want to go to college." Lydia's face was mixed with emotions, as if she had thought of something, and she whispered, "I remember that girl also applied to college." "What did you say?" I looked at the message on WeChat in surprise. Lydia actually wanted to pay for my admission and let Nina go to university instead of me? That was unbelievable. I didn't hesitate to block her. Lydia was very angry at the time, and I don't know how agitated she was. But then at a community event, I learned inadvertently that Nina had entered an ordinary second-tier university in the city. This incident became a laughingstock in the circles of the wealthy for a while. Noah's company gradually grew in the city and quickly became a local leader. The business environment in the city has undergone a major reshuffle, with new forces rising to the fore while some old families have been eliminated, and the Lane family is one of them. Noah mentioned that Ethan misjudged the government's plans and believed that the government would designate a new district in Donggang, so he mortgaged all his assets and purchased a piece of land in Donggang. Unexpectedly, the government's new district was in the northern suburbs. As a result, the Lane family is in a bankruptcy crisis. I wasn't surprised to hear the news. After all, I was the one who planted the wrong information in the Lane family. After more than 2 years of planning, my revenge plan was finally starting to bear fruit. Soon it was my birthday again, and this time Noah volunteered to throw a birthday party for me. Noah quipped, "Everyone in the business community knows about your reputation as the goddess of wisdom now, and everyone wants to know the story behind it." I laughed and agreed if it was okay. The Lane family, Ethan and Lydia, also heard the news. Is this information reliable? Of course it is. I heard that when Noah was in Jicheng, the company was in a terrible situation and almost went bankrupt. Then he met that mysterious thinker and was able to turn the crisis into an opportunity. Over the years, that thinker has been by his side, helping him grow his business empire to its current scale. If we can get that big shot to give us some pointers, maybe our family will also see a turnaround. That's right. A few days later was the birthday banquet for that big shot, and I had a set of jewelry in my hands that I planned to give to her, asking her to come out and help us. On the day of the birthday party, almost all the important people in the city came. Noah dragged me around to entertain everyone, and I was kept busy. Just then, I suddenly heard a familiar voice behind me. "Mr. Reed, I'm Lydia. Today is your good friend's birthday, and I've brought a pair of treasured jewels. I hope the young lady likes them and will accept them." Noah replied, "I'm not sure if she likes jewels or not. There she is, go talk to her." A flash of joy appeared in Lydia's eyes, and she took a step forward. handing over the jewelry in her hand. As she watched, I slowly turned around and smiled at her. I wonder what Mrs. Lane wants with me? Lydia's eyes narrowed and she froze, almost dropping the jewelry in her hand. How could it be you? Is the person behind Noah the one who has been helping him, Serena? I gave a sneer at the corner of my mouth, glanced at the jewelry in her hand, and said in a cold tone, I'm sorry, Mrs. Lane, I'm not interested in these fake things. Fake? Noah looked closer curiously and it seemed to be the case. People around him started to whisper. Is it really a fake? Who gives a fake gift? It's really disappointing. Do you know? The Lane family is in a different situation now. Can they really afford it? I looked at Lydia's green face, which didn't look very good, and continued, besides, I don't think I invited you to my birthday party, so how did you get here? Lydia couldn't stand the sarcasm and fainted for a moment. Nina and Ethan quickly went over to catch her, and the scene immediately became chaotic. Later, an ambulance from 120 came and took them away. I watched the ambulance leave with a slight upturn of the corner of my mouth, raising the red wine in my hand in salute in their direction. It wasn't long before Lydia became a vegetable due to a cerebral hemorrhage. The Lane family eventually went bankrupt, and Ethan and Lydia were left with huge debts. Nina dropped out of school, left the city, and was never heard from again.